Let's call the meeting to order. Roll.
Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner Ryan, you're muted. You're there.
Commissioner Ryan, computer has a mind of its own, I think.
Can you hear me?
There you are.
Wow.
He's there now.
Commissioner Campo.
Hello?
Commissioner.
Hello?
Hi, Commissioner Ryan.
Yes, this is Commissioner Ryan, President.
Okay. Commissioner Blower.
Here.
Commissioner Jewell.
Here.
Commissioner Cook Hawkins.
Here.
Commissioner Sorensen. Commissioner
Exactly.
Jordan.
Here.
Commissioner Wesley.
Okay, we have a quorum. Now we have the remote announcement. Is that Attorney Gurley?
Yes, sir. I am here.
Right.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Listen to that
board-
voice, y'all. You can hear it. Go, girl.
uh, all boards and commissions must adhere to all laws established under the Michigan compiled laws and in accordance with the revisions of the Open Meetings Act adopted in Senate Bill 1108 as passed on October 13th, 2020, and signed into law on October 16, 2020. A public announcement shall be made by each member who is attending the meeting remotely that he or she is attending the meeting remotely, and except for those in military service, stating his or her physical location.
Commissioner Ryan.
This is Commissioner Ryan, appearing remotely from my residence in Flint, Michigan.
Commissioner Campo. Commissioner Blower.
Commissioner Blower, I'm attending remotely, currently in Flushing, Michigan.
Commissioner Jewell.
This is Commissioner Jewell attending remotely from my residence in Flint, Michigan.
Commissioner Cook Hawkins.
Commissioner Cook Hawkins attending remotely from Flint, Michigan.
Commissioner Sorensen. Commissioner Jordan.
Commissioner Jordan attending remotely from Flint, Michigan.
Commissioner Wesley.
Commissioner Wesley attending remotely from Flint, Michigan. Next, any additions or changes to the agenda?
Commissioner Wesley, this is Bill Vandercook.
Bill?
You can request that we remove PC 21417 under public hearings, under advisement with Assistant City Attorney Joanne Gurley. The marijuana ordinance allows for a zoning coordinator to approve a partial ownership change. So this didn't need to come before the Planning Commission, but because there was a public notice put out, we had to keep it on the agenda.
Okay,
I'd like to request that be removed from the agenda.
very good.
And just to clarify, that is as long as the applicant and the new owner meet all of the background check and all of the requirements under the ordinance.
Okay, and I take it all of that prior to removing this? Is that correct, Mr. Vandercook?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So done. Public hearing. PC 21417. Applicant Thomas Jorban, request for a partial ownership change in the Provision Center has been removed from the agenda. Any other additions or changes to the agenda? Any other additions or changes to the agenda? Chair will entertain a motion to accept the agenda, approve the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
It's moved and properly supported. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposers have the same rights, appears unanimous. The agenda is so adopted. Next is the minutes of October 12, 2021.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Jewell,
yeah, this is Commissioner Jewell. Just a couple of items. If we go to page 2, and the last sentence on page 2, if you read the first sentence, Mr. Vandercook stated that Doug Scott, my apologies, that Doug Scott of Rowe is waiting to receive the draft lighting. And I think the word agreement needs to be added, to receive the draft lighting agreement from the city of Flint. So that was the first one. Then if you go to page 4, and just above resolutions, the first, if you read the sentence that starts off, Commissioner Jewell stated that this agenda item will be taken off. There should be a period, and this is just a grammatical item. And then however should just be capitalized, however, comma, and then continue, have identified items to be added to the reports, and reports should be capitalized, capital R section, reports section, relating to the educational components, and then of major topics relating is to be deleted. Of major topics relating to be deleted. I think I repeated myself when I was making the comment. So the sentence should read, however, staff have identified topics to be added to the uppercase reports section related to educational components to the function and procedure of the Planning Commission. Those were the 2 items that I had, or the 3 items. Oh, yeah.
any other additions or corrections or deletions to the minutes? Any other corrections? Additions? Deletions? Hearing none, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as corrected at this time.
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Jewell. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as corrected.
Do I hear support?
Commissioner Blauer, support.
Okay, Commissioner Blauer, because you came over the loudest, but I heard Commissioner Ryan in there too, so it was double. Roll.
Commissioner Ryan,
Yes.
Commissioner Blauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Jewell,
Yes, with corrections.
Commissioner Cook Hawkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Wesley.
Yes, the minutes have been approved. By the way, welcome, Lauren, again. Next is a public forum. The public is invited to take part on anything appearing on our agenda this evening. If there's anyone in the public wishing to address the commission, do so by pressing *6, I believe it is, to address the commission. Is there anyone in the public wishing to address the commission? Anyone in the public wishing to address the commission? Anyone in the public wishing to address the commission? KZ, is there anyone on the line?
We have 2 numbers ending in 391 and 009. If you'd like to speak, please press *9 to raise your hand.
Oh, *9.
*6 to unmute, and star 9 to raise your hand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You mean you can see a hand raised?
Okay, it doesn't seem like there's no.
Is there anyone wishing to address the commission? Seeing and hearing none, nobody raising their hand. That portion of the public hearing is now closed. We have no public hearing. So our next item on the agenda is site plan review is SPR 21956 AMAG. The Shahana Johnson is requesting a site plan review at PID 4109302021. It says no current address. That is the crematorium, I believe. Is the applicant present? I think you need to unmute. Is
Sorry
that
about that. I said, yes, I'm present. My
Okay.
name is Shania Johnson. I'm the requester. I'm the owner of the parcel on Court Street where Brighton Cremation Corporation will reside.
okay? Tell us about your
Mr.
site plan.
Chair, Mr.
Yes.
Chair, this is Commissioner Joel. We usually have a staff report first.
I'm sorry. My bad, Commissioner Jewell. Thanks for the reminder. We have a staff report that I've looked at. I don't know why I just went right over that. Mr. Vandercook.
Commissioner Joel,
Or-
this is Bill Vandercook. Corey will give the staff report this evening. Thank you.
Okay,
Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me?
I can hear you, Corey.
So today's kind of exciting. We have a new one for you. It's nothing to do with marijuana, and it's quite on season for the holiday coming up. So we have a crematorium going in on Court Street. This is a new build on a parcel that is undeveloped. As you already read, there's no address yet for the site, but the parcel ID is 4109302021. It is surrounded by commercial on all sides except the north, which is low intensity industrial. And then the zoning is all industrial or heavy commercial, except to the south, community business D3. And the applicant applied well before the zoning ordinance issue came up, so we can proceed with this application as if it is entirely under the old zoning code. So moving on to my site plan checklist, they have provided all of the informational requirements deemed necessary to confirm compliance. And then as far as compliance with the zoning ordinance goes, they were fully compliant. And then on the last page, we got department comments back. And Bill should have emailed out. We received a letter from the applicant addressing the water and the city engineering comment. And the last comment that needed to be addressed was the fire code. The fire department wanted a new hydrant put in on the same side of the development's going in. And that was confirmed to be done on the site plan. So with that, are there any questions for me?
This is Commissioner Jewel, Corey.
Yes.
I think you addressed the issue about the fire hydrants. And as you notice, that is on the site plan.
Yep.
The site plan was very detailed and very in depth. So I'm going to take your word for it because I couldn't find it. All right.
Okay.
The other item, Corey, I understand we did get the notice regarding the cost for the water and sewage connections, and I think that's par for the course, as noted. The other question I had that you might be able to clarify is the issue of street address. Is it just because there is no facility presently on there, there's no address?
That is my understanding. The planning and zoning department doesn't give out addresses, so I'm not 100% sure on what part of the procedure, broke down. But I believe that's given out by street maintenance, and I imagine it's because there's no physical property on there, no development.
Yeah,
Because
this
I know-
Shanae again.
I
Requested
know.
the address.
Excuse me, Shania.
Hold up, Ms. Johnson.
Corey, are you still there?
Yes.
Yeah, it's my understanding we went through a similar situation before with another new build. So I just wanted to make sure we're on track.
Yeah, no
Is that-
problem.
Okay. that's fine with me. So those are just some inquiries I had regarding the staff report. Thank you, Corey.
No problem.
Sorry, this is Casey, if I may speak.
Go ahead,
Um,
Casey.
The street name is actually East Court Street. It does not have a street number since the USPS doesn't dedicate a mailing address for that yet. So until there's a facility there and the USPS has a number, then we'll be able to put a number to it. But for now, its identification is its PID.
But it's
Okay.
known as Court Street. Is that correct?
East Court Street.
East
Court
Court Street. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the commission to Corey? Hearing none from Corey. Ms. Johnson, if you want to speak now, or you have your architect speak, but I think you had something to say concerning the address or something along that line.
Yes, I put in the request with maintenance last week for an address. So that's in process right now.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay, tell us about your site plan, Ms. Johnson, or
I've been working with my architect hand in hand for the last few months on developing the site plan. It's a startup business for human and pet cremation. And that's the summary as of now, sir.
okay. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say,
That's
this is Dave. This is
Oh,
Dave
go ahead,
McLean with
Dave.
it. This is Dave McLean with AMAG. So we're the architect working with Shania on her project. So if there's any specific questions, I can share a screen if that's allowed, or whatever, and kind of walk through anything.
Yeah.
So whatever you guys want, that's fine.
You can share a screen. And the commissions have any particular questions regarding this site plan?
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner
ahead.
Jewell. I just want to make a comment that the site plan was extremely detailed, extremely informative, extremely focused. Also, additionally, I was duly appreciative of the illustration regarding the lighting, particularly on the outside aspect and the coverage, as well as the landscaping for the surrounding of the facility and building areas. So appreciative of that.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and when you look at your legend too, it gives all the particulars,
Right.
which is refreshing.
So Chairman Wesley, I could actually
Yeah.
address Commissioner Jewell's question as well. We did get out there and take photos. So I do have some photos of the site showing that the fire hydrant was installed. And that was a final comment on the plan review checklist as well.
Okay.
So I can share those. We can walk through aerials and the prints if deemed necessary.
Okay, go ahead if you would. That'd be fine.
Okay.
I was looking for that fire hydrant too, but anyway. Should have found it.
Can everyone see my screen?
I got it.
Okay, so this East Court, and here's Commerce Street, and this is Shania's property right here on the corner. I will show the photos here. So we'll start from across here. This is actually looking back towards Dort. This street right here that you're looking at is Commerce. This is looking west. That's looking back east. This is the new fire hydrant that was installed along with the leads from the water and sanitary by the city.
Okay.
Which was addressed in those dollar amounts as well. And this is just looking back north on the property. So yes, it's currently undeveloped. And as mentioned earlier, the parcel ID is for the identification of the property at this time.
Okay.
Shania, I guess I'll just share your letter of intent. This is Shania's letter stating that she is in agreement with reimbursement of the city for the services that have been provided.
Right, we had that.
Okay. And then the site plan This is just our typical cover sheet showing we did our due diligence with the site plan. Summary review addresses the site regulations, site requirements, design regulations, parking lot. And then this is the site plan. So it's basically a 2,700 square feet new facility. The new ingress egress drive will be off of Commerce Street. There's a requirement for 11 parking spaces based on the parking requirements of the zoning ordinance and the occupant load of the building. Those 7 will be up front here. We have a side drive aisle, which the loading and unloading is on the west side of the building. There's an overhead door here for deliveries. We can take a quick walk through the floor plan if everybody likes. Heading back north, we have a turnaround area, the proposed dumpster location, and then asphalt in the back as well. The required detention pond will be back here on the north side of the facility with its outlet back towards Gilkey Creek, which actually goes subsurface at the north side of her property. And you can see here the concrete tunnel that goes under Commerce Street across Dort Highway and then comes back to surface on the other side of Dort Highway. Just run through probably a landscape plan showing that was one of the items addressed in the, well, I guess, let's go back to this real quick. Originally, we didn't have the dotted line shown for the loading and unloading area. That was addressed in the letter of response and also added to the site plan. The calculation showed a requirement of 9 trees. However, we have provided an additional one based on the plan review comments that it came back. So we currently have 3 across the front, 7 across this side, and some ancillary landscaping around the building and to the east side. Those will be all new plantings. A couple isometric shots of the exterior of the building. As mentioned, this is the side loading the west side. This is where the deliveries will be received. The main entry into the facility will be off of Court Street. This is just looking the other direction. Coming in the front doors, we'll have offices, facilities, viewing area, the furnace areas in the back, viewing, deliveries off this side. Another office for managing this area. And then just the overall each elevations. So just a quick run through, give everybody an idea what we're seeking approval for tonight.
Any questions from the commission to the architect? All right, hearing none. What is the desire of the commission?
If there's no more comments from my fellow commissioners, I'll make a motion.
Sounds good.
All right, pardon my background noise, but I move approval of SPR 21956 AMAG request for the site plan review at PID 4109302021 with currently no address.
Okay, it's been moved. I hear support.
Support, Mr. Ryan.
It's been moved and properly supported by Commissioner Ryan. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll.
Commissioner Ryan,
Yes.
Commissioner Blauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Jewell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook Hawkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Wesley.
Yes. To the applicant, your site plan has been approved and you'll be getting a signed copy. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Next item on our agenda is case reviews. SPR 2941 Sylvester Broom Empowerment Village is requesting a site plan review at 4119 North Saginaw Street. Mr. Vandercook.
Yes, Commissioner Wesley. So first case reviews under SPR 2941 Sylvester Broom Empowerment Village. I've been in contact with Mr. Scott from Rowan, Doug Scott, and he's working on the agreement right now to bring back to the city. We did not have an agreement, the city lighting agreement, so Mr. Scott's preparing a lighting draft agreement to bring back so that we can review it prior to bring it to the board with the revised plans.
Okay.
I do not have a date at this time of when he'll have that to the city.
This is Commissioner Jordan. I just have a question on that point. My recollection is I think we approved that conditionally in November of last year. So if they have a year during which to satisfy the conditions, is there a date by which we have to get the materials secured to satisfy all the conditions? And if that date is not met, what's the implication?
All right.
You want me to answer,
Anybody want to
Bill?
respond to that? Because I'm not sure.
Yes.
Corey?
Yeah.
Essentially, they would
They
lose their
can't-
approval. They would have to start back from the beginning if they missed that deadline. However, the commission has the authority to issue an extension at any point. Does that help?
Yeah. So you're saying the commission has the authority to extend that date,
Yes.
or if we don't do that, then they have to start from the beginning. Is that
Right.
so?
Yep, that's essentially it.
Okay, I think, with that in mind, Mr. Vandercook, because this is October and November is coming up, and probably at our next meeting, you might want to let them know what the options are and see what they think.
I will follow up again. I did have a conversation with Doug Scott regarding the timeline being November, that it was going to expire, and that he had a conditional approval for 1 year, and that we needed to, get the information into the planning commission. And so I will follow up with an email and tell him of the consequences and potential options he has to extend it at the commission's discretion, of course.
Okay. All right, anything else for SPR 2941?
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Jewell. My records show that this was conditionally approved November the 24th. Our next meeting is November the 9th. And then after that, our next meeting is November the 23rd. I would like to, if you could just pass on to the staff, that we would like to have some sort of recommendation or input on our meeting on the 9th.
Okay.
A recommendation, could you be more clear?
I think staff needs to talk with the applicant, aware of the time frame. Secondly, can they meet that time frame, which is basically, in my view, the 23rd of November, which is our second meeting? Because if they can, then that is mute. If they feel they can't and they'd like to request an extension, what is that extension and what are they committed to as a time frame? because originally, when we issued this conditional back in November, they had noted they would have it presented to us in a couple of weeks. Is that helpful, Corey?
Yes, thank you very much. We will take care of that.
Okay.
Okay. All right, moving right along. Is SPR 21945, Community First, Lynn Wilson's request for a site plan review at 2765 Flushing Road. As I can recall, go ahead, Mr. Vandercook, I'll let you give the information, but I think this can come off of our agenda and because it's done. You want
That's right. SPR 21945, Communities First, Glenn Wilson is requesting a site plan review at 2765 Flushing Road. He has brought in 3 finalized sets of plans that met the requirements. Earlier this week, Commissioner Wesley signed off on the plans. So I'd like to request that it be removed from case reviews.
All right, that's all the case reviews. Next report, status of the draft zoning ordinance. Suzanne Wilcock.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
We have been working with our administration team to continue to move this forward. We had a meeting last week with Clyde where he had some questions and some concerns, which we've been working to address. The decision was made to wait until after the November elections at the request of Clyde to bring forward the zoning code. I started scheduling meetings with council people. Some are interested, some are not. And at this point, given that we were going to meet with 6 of the council people, understanding that 3 of them are not going to be in office regardless, we're also looking at holding off on those discussions until after November. That's another conversation that I'm going to have with Clyde just to make sure that is the direction that he wants to proceed in. So we are moving forward on that, but it looks like we would be bringing forward the zoning code the first council meeting in November after the November council elections. There's been a little bit of a I think clarification that we're seeking from the council office because, as you all know, the reason this is happening is because the ordinance was published, and it's possible, and I'm waiting for clarification from the council staff. Bill's been in contact with them, and I have too, but it's possible that the ordinance was published, that there may have been an error in publishing the ordinance, in which case it would not be in effect. That's obviously critical information for us, and we're trying to get it as quickly as possible. So I'm going to continue pushing the council office to get that information. Had a lengthy conversation with staff today and shared that also with the law office. So if that is the case and it was published and there's an error in publication, it's possible that it's not actually in effect, in which case we would be able to continue reviewing plans under the old ordinance. That is, again, just a possibility. Don't have specific details on it, but we're going to continue pushing for that information, while we then would move forward with the next 12 articles quickly, as we talked about before, so that we could get the draft zoning code in, or the draft zoning ordinance in place. Beyond that, I don't really have a further update, except for as the public becomes aware of this issue, we're getting lots of calls and requests for information, and we've developed an internal script that we utilize. I'll share that with the council office. I'm sorry, with the planning commissioners. And this is basically what we're trying to tell everybody. The public is obviously frustrated, and we are as well. So we just continue to kind of muddle through this and try to move this forward in some way. At this point, the best case scenario would be if there was an error published, and then we could at least review plans under the old zoning code until the draft zoning code is adopted. So we'll keep you updated on that. And I'm hoping to hear more information from council staff tomorrow on that. I did not get a response back today yet. So that is where we are on that.
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Commissioner
Joe.
Jewell. Suzanne, again, thank you, thank you, thank you. I know it's probably a very diligent and struggling time, but again, thank you. Appreciate your commentary on a script and public inquiry. I'm a firm believer in a single point of contact. Maybe you can help clarify. I know from my perspective, if issues are raised regarding the planning commission, I usually direct them to the chair, who's our spokesperson. And regarding staffing or procedural stuff, I usually direct to Bill as the zoning coordinator. In light of this particular set of dynamics, do you have any other, is that an appropriate points of contact or any other recommendations?
I think that's very appropriate. This impacts obviously both the planning commission and staff. So calls are coming in really to everyone. They're calling the mayor's office, they're calling Calfani, they're calling building and safety inspection. So that was the reason for the script. And if there are specific questions, then I think your points are well taken, either to the chair of the planning commission or to Bill Vandercook, and then Bill sometimes refers calls to me. I think they're just kind of ramping up right now, and they're going to wherever they see they might get some, be able to get some leverage. So we're trying to make sure that everybody is informed. Ultimately, though, I think it's appropriate that it's Bill and Chairman Wesley. And then if there are, there's some concerns about legalities and, what they can and can't do, those calls, we'll be referring them to the law office. And I believe the law office is also getting those calls, but I just had an email today, for example, with someone who is obviously frustrated about the system and the process and the decision, and that's someone that would probably be referred to the law office. So between those three entities, that's where I think it makes the most sense for all calls to go.
Yeah.
And the contact, I think Joanne's probably on the call. The contact obviously there is Joanne.
Right. Mr. Chair, just to continue my concern, because I know for us as planning commissioners, we're always diligent when applicants always approach us regarding upcoming scenarios, which we're well aware is an inappropriate dynamic. But I think regarding this, for us planning commissioners and directing things to Chairman Wesley, the other side of that is regarding staff issues. I just want to make sure it's probably appropriate to direct, as you mentioned, directing those to Bill. And then Bill and yourself and others can then determine where additional direction could go. Just some commentary.
All right.
No, I would agree with that.
Any further comments from the commission to Suzanne?
Commissioner Jordan, I was wondering, I know at the last meeting that one of the ideas discussed was developing like a spreadsheet that would log all of the inquiries or requests that were not able to be responded to because of this status with the zoning code, and that be kind of tagged by ward so that we would have tangible examples in a sense of what the projects were being impacted, but also the different wards that were being affected by that. And I wondered if you could provide an update as to kind of what that looks like right now, if you have a sense of how many projects we're talking about that have not been able to be explored, or consultations held, or site plans put forth or that sort of thing due to this delay?
I actually don't have an update on that. I know that Bill and Casey are fielding lots of calls. I really would defer to them to see if that spreadsheet has been created and if they are being tracked at this point. I know everything is being input into the BSNA system, but we did discuss that, Commissioner Jordan, and I appreciate your reminder on that. I don't know, Bill or Casey, if you have officially put something in place, and so I would defer to you two to respond to that. And if it hasn't been, then that's a great reminder, and we need to make sure that that does get done. I think that's I know that a lot of those folks are calling. Not all the calls come to us, so I know a lot of the folks are calling. Like I said, they're council people. Council is aware of it now. It was brought up at Monday's meeting, so we don't even necessarily have a record of everyone. But for people that have called us, Bill and Casey, can you respond to whether that spreadsheet has been started, and if so, if we have and if we're tracking that, and if not, then we do need to start doing that.
Yeah, now this is Bill Vandercook, Commissioner Wesley. To Elizabeth's point, Casey is going to be the best one to answer this question, but we have started the process now. So,
this is Casey speaking. So we recently just finished putting together the applications that came before, which was what what Bill has mentioned, which is the July 21st. We've put those applications together in a data, and now we're working on finalizing. I should have that prepared tomorrow, finalized, with all that information of what came after July 21st and what ward they're in.
Okay.
Okay, and that's what I was going to say. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you don't mind me explaining a little further, this is Bill Vandercook again. What we do is we scan in the application. The application then goes into BSNA system. BSNA then can do comprehensive Excel charts. The data can be, put into Excel charts so that we can look at, names, addresses, dates, applications came in, request for certificate of zoning compliances, fence, deck, structures, planning commission, site plan review, zoning, board of appeals, and then we can break that up into different wards.
Bill, what does BSNA stand for?
Thank you, Chairman Wesley.
Thank you. I apologize for that. KZ, the acronym is BSNA. It's building, or Suzanne, building and safety.
It's actually not.
No.
It's I don't know what the acronym stands for offhand, but it is the system that it's not just for building and safety inspections. It's the software that tracks all of our city services, and there's several modules for different departments. So the BSNA software is a system that maintains information on human resources. It maintains information on building applications, permits, and inspections. There's a module for that. There's a module for assessments. There's a module for accounts payable and general ledger and purchase order. So it's the overall comprehensive management information system for an accounting system for the city. And I will have to get you the acronym because I cannot remember what it stands for right now.
So I can answer that. That's actually Business Software Alliance, and it's equalization.net that produce these softwares that helps the city overall use variety of type of departments to handle in unison with linked applications to a parcel ID.
Okay. Overall tracking system. That's what I put down.
Additionally, regarding collecting that data, applications, right now we're not collecting fees when we process these.
And so that tells the city they're losing money, right?
So we're going to have to go back and call them chronologically once we decide which applications to use, the old current or new applications. then request fees to follow up.
Okay. I think one of the overall questions that came up concerning the zoning was the thing where they talking about, that the new master plan and was taking property, and we addressed that issue. Has that been put into print? Our solution to the problem that folks had the most concern with? Do anybody know?
Yeah, I
Elizabeth?
think
So it's
that's
been
posted
addressed
on our website.
It's been published on our website?
If you're talking about like the memo that was created around like the green innovation and trying
Right.
to clarify,
Yeah.
yeah, that's been up for a few years on the website.
Because folks are saying that, we was taking property and that type of thing. So that's up on our website now. Okay, good.
It is, the memo is on the memo's on the Imagine Flint website. And then I'd also say, and I mentioned this at the last Planning Commission meeting, that tomorrow evening, there's ongoing attempts to try and clarify some of the misinformation that's out there. And tomorrow evening is the 4th installment of the discussions we've been having around equity and related to really kind of addressing a multiple of things specifically regarding racial equity. So tomorrow's webinar is specifically discussing the master plan and the zoning code, and one of the components of tomorrow's session is myths and misinformation and correcting that. So there are some more specific examples that we are providing about myths that exist, misinformation that's out there. And I would encourage, and I'll send the link to everyone, I'd encourage everyone to attend that, because we will be going into detail. And then we are talking also internally about how we can kind of raise those issues outside of the Planning Commission memo that's on the city's website, so that when we do get to the point where we're discussing the zoning code, we have an opportunity to refute those. So we talked about the presentation to the city council and these individual meetings to help dispel some of those myths. And so that there are ongoing efforts. So I'd agree with Elizabeth that it is on the website, but we're also trying to raise it a little bit more to the forefront so that people understand, that a lot of what they hear is not accurate.
Okay. All right.
This is Commissioner Drew, I just, we kind of got into the outreach part, which makes sense. But just before we lose track of the spreadsheet part, I just want to make sure that part of what I hope that we're able to track with that is not only the applications that have actually been received, but any of the items that had to be paused. So I know that there was that list developed of everything from pre-development consultations to, zoning certificates or what have you, any of those items, even if it's somebody saying that they want to come in and meet to discuss an idea that ordinarily you would provide that service, that you're not able to have that meeting now. I think any of those things would be important to log, because, if somebody gets a site plan ready to submit or something like that, there's usually a whole series of things that have led up to that point, and delaying any of those steps helps to impede the development work going on in the city.
Okay. All right. Bill, did we get those notes? What Commissioner Jordan was requesting?
This is Bill Vandercook, Commissioner Wesley. Yes, that we do have another system that we can log all that information in daily. So in our Google Drive, we do have logs, and so that information will, in addition, will be logged in on a daily basis. We'll discuss that with staff tomorrow.
Yeah, I know KZ and Lauren probably can handle that. Huh? All right, KZ, don't give me that look. Anyway. Is there anything else for the draft zoning code? Draft zoning ordinance? Here now we'll go right down to status of the permanent marijuana ordinance. Yes. Our assistant city attorney is Joanne Gurley.
I am
Joanne?
here. Yes, I am here.
Okay.
Just as Suzanne was explaining about the draft zoning ordinance, the information about whether the first 6 articles are actually adopted is really going to impact the permanent marijuana ordinance as well, because as you know, the names of the zoning districts changed in the new zoning, a new draft ordinance. And so until we know exactly where we stand with the zoning ordinance, we can't really have an answer yet for the permanent marijuana ordinance. Everything changed. We were all on track to do both of them in unison. And at last meeting, I believe that the staff were updating the permanent marijuana ordinance in accordance with the new draft zoning ordinance, so that once it is passed, meaning the new zoning ordinance, that the permanent marijuana ordinance can also be adopted by city council once it comes back to the planning commission for review.
Okay. Questions from the commission to Assistant City Attorney Gurley? You mean y'all gonna let her get off that easy?
I know. Where's Commissioner Jewell? Is Commissioner Jewell? You have a question for
Is
me
he,
tonight?
is he not on the, he's not on
Okay,
the call?
all right, Attorney Hurley.
He's not in on this call?
I'm dragging this out so that if we go really, really long, you can take the hook out for Bob. My only concern is that we be clear and concise as we move forward, because we've gone through this before in the past, and we don't want to get stuck in the in the quagmire. Is that the word? Quagmire again. So my concern for and support for staff, yourself included, and Suzanne and Bill and Lauren and John and Casey and the others, is sorting through all this stuff so we're moving beyond where we are. And of particular concern is the whole issue of council elections coming up in 2 weeks, and then perceptions and views and so forth. So I just want to make sure we're not asking ourselves the same questions a month and a half from now.
A month and a half? What about 2 years from now? Or a year and a half from now?
Well, I know, and my reason, Chairman Wesley, as you're well aware, is we've been going through the struggle with the zoning, the draft zoning ordinance almost 3 years ago.
Yep.
Which was prior to the previous election. So whether it be with the permanent marijuana ordinance or the draft zoning ordinance, we owe it to the public and to the applicants. We owe it to the council. We owe it to the administration. We owe it to the staff that we all are on the same page.
Yeah.
So I'll hold any additional questions or inquiries until the next couple of meetings.
Okay.
Or during the next couple of meetings. Would that be okay, Attorney Hurley?
Yeah, I always look forward to a question. So, but I can say though that we are, in my opinion, really trying to keep this on the radar for, the powers that be, so that there's some resolution, and we'd like to get it taken care of as soon as possible.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Because I know from our perspective of planning commissioners, I'm of the view we've raised the questions, we've pursued concerns and issues, we've raised issues, seek specifics and so forth. And the challenge right now is in the hands of the staff, which is both the legal staff, the planning and development staff, as well as administration, and being clear of what we can do and what we can't do, as well as in the hands of city council. So that from my perspective, if people are asking, I'm at the point is it needs to be worked out through administration, staff, and council.
Okay. Very well. Thank you, Attorney Gurley.
Sure.
Attorney
Next is-
Gurley, was there anything else I needed to add in?
No, I think you did very well. I think you
Okay,
did
just
very
wanted-
well. It's awesome. Yep.
Okay, very good. Staffing update, Suzanne, Ms. Wilcott.
I don't really have many updates. We're still working on filling the lead planner position. I don't know if Kelfani is on this call, but he's taking point on filling that position. We're still in discussions about, I talked to you last time about the need for another administrative personnel, which that requires a budget amendment for us in order to make additional funding available for that position. That's something I'm still in discussion about, and my intent is if I can do it before the next budget cycle, I will definitely try to do that. If not, it's going to be a new position in the upcoming budget cycle, but we'd like to move forward on that prior to July 1. So that would require a budget amendment, and we're going to continue having those discussions. I don't know. I can't tell if Kelfani is on the call or not, if he wants to give an update on the lead planner position.
No.
I can't. I don't know. I don't know
think
if you guys.
I
Okay.
don't see him on. There's some numbers on here that
He's here. He's got his hand raised.
he's got his hand raised.
Perfect.
I love that because I can't see a hand raised, but I love that whole idea. He's got his hand raised. Mr. Calfani.
So good evening, commissioners. That was me hitting the wrong button. I tried to unmute and I accidentally raised my hand.
Okay, go ahead if you like to.
Yeah. So no, just very briefly. As Suzanne said, I am working with the HR department to try and get that lead planner position filled, and the determination was that, well, we had a slate of candidates, and some of them dropped out, some of them did not respond to requests for interviews. So HR is reposting that position, and we're trying to cast a wider net to see if we can actually get a full slate of candidates to actually interview and bring you a decent crop to pull from.
Okay. Sounds like a challenge.
It is a challenge. The biggest challenge is that you may know that the city of Flint does not necessarily pay market rate. And so we are actually in the middle of a wage and compensation study, and hopefully the results of that study will allow us to amend our starting salaries. But right now that is actually a very significant hindrance. So some of the things that we're doing in trying to cast this wider net is to be a little bit more flexible on some of our requirements so that we can actually potentially catch the next rising star. But again, we have to actually get them to respond to the postings first.
Okay. Very good. Noah's challenge.
And those are real. It is challenging, but those are the two vacant positions that impact planning and zoning at this point. So we will continue to work on that.
Okay. Next is the educational update for the Planning Commission. Mr. Vandercook?
Thank you, Commissioner Wesley. What we were discussing, there's some components the Commissioner Jewell mentioned regarding from the last minutes, educational components that are critical to the function and procedures of the Planning Commission, that we would start putting some of those items underneath the reports. Tonight, we just like to take a minute and ask the commissioners to think about things that are important that they would like to see put under those reports, and just share, with us via email or call, or let us know what's important to you as a commissioner that you'd like to know about, be educated on, some of the past things that we recently, and I think you've appreciated that reports that Jonathan's given on like I-475. There's updates that we can do on the marijuana regulatory, updates through Lara. We discussed, places of worship and, the assessor's role in assessing places of worship in reference to the marijuana ordinance. So there are probably many more, important educational items that we could put underneath the reports, but we're just asking for the commissioners to consider, what they'd like to see under reports, and in time we'd be able to work through those. Thank you, Commissioner Wesley.
Alrighty. So I guess the homework for the commissioners to look at some things that you would like to get educated on. Okay,
That's correct.
all right. Any resolutions? None? All
No
right, here we
resolution.
go. The old business, American Rescue Plan. Ms. Wilcox, what about that American Rescue Plan?
I don't have an update beyond what I reported at the last meeting. I did, forward documents to Rob Whittigan and Calfani and others who might be interested in making sure that the strategic plan is included as, one of the kind of directions that administration can use as they're allocating those ARP funds. I don't know. I haven't had any further conversations with Mr. Whittigan since then, but that is something that I'm going to follow up on. And Calfani might actually have more information on this because I know he's working directly with Rob Whittigan. So Calfani, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but I do intend to reach out to Rob again to see if, there's a way that can be used to help inform the choices that are being made for funding allocations.
So again, Commissioners Calfani, Stevens, if I may.
Okay, Mr. Stevens?
Thank you, Suzanne. So yes, I don't know, probably a month or so ago, I was on here and we talked about the different, very, very large conceptual areas that administration was considering as far as the ARP dollars. And we did talk about the idea of using the master plan. And so, yes, there are two things that I would say. One, still nothing has been set in stone. We are several steps closer to having a, oversight is not the right word, a compliance firm in place to make sure that whatever our final plans are they actually properly align with the very intricate federal regulations and standards. And then the second thing that I would say is we continue to look at all of the data that we have collected, that including the master plan, to make sure that what we ultimately suggest is actually in line with moving forward with what is both best practices and also aligning with current market demands. So for example, one of the things that we are definitely looking at doing, and again, I say definitely looking at doing, because at the end of the day, it has to align with the federal standards, and it also needs to be approved by the city council, but is to look to say, hey, we know that there is a need for housing assistance. And so how do we determine exactly where that assistance goes and what that assistance looks like? And so relying on the information that has already been duly collected and put together by the Planning Commission will be a key part of determining what that final suggestion is. But as of right now, it's just an area of interest, so to speak, that, hey, we know that there's an issue here. We have data on that issue, but we haven't formulated a final plan yet because, one, we're waiting for our compliance firm so that we can run things past them. But two, we also are just making sure that all of our Venn diagrams line up and we're picking the area that, you know, aligns with the plans, the development plans that have been in place for quite some time now, with the actual market forces that are in alignment at this time, and also what the public wants to see.
To Suzanne and to Mr. Stevens, have we looked at other areas, other cities, other municipalities who are putting together plans of how we use these federal dollars?
That is a great question, and the answer is yes. We've looked at a number of cities in Michigan, Ohio, and I want to say there was another Midwestern state. I want to say it was Minnesota. It may have been Wisconsin. But yes, we have looked at their plans, and interestingly enough, they are like us in that they have conceptual areas, but they have not necessarily, most of the ones that we have looked at have not committed to specific programs that they have funded as of yet.
You said you looked at cities like in Michigan. What about Detroit and those areas?
Oh, so yes, Detroit is definitely obviously one of the cities that we have looked at their plans that they have laid out.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners to Mr. Stevens or to Mr. Wilcox?
Mr. Chair. Yeah,
who's
go,
that?
Well, it was two of us, Joel and Jordan. I'll hold.
You're gonna hold for Jordan, right?
Yeah.
I know you was the gentleman. Go ahead. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
All right. I appreciate the update. And so I've seen a draft document that's kind of circulating out in the world that I think it was a pretty general overview of potential spending categories. And I think like there were like maybe 4 or 5 buckets. One was, I think, safety. One was around economic development. There were some around, I think, public health, if I remember a few of them. And then I know that the city's got on its website kind of a very basic survey that's asking residents to kind of rank those 4 or 5 buckets in order, but that I hadn't really seen anything in terms of starting to delve down into the more types of projects that pertain to these sorts of categories. And so I appreciate, Suzanne, I heard you saying that you had forwarded the master plan implementation matrix information. At what point can we expect to start seeing some more flesh put on these bones so that there's an overlay between whatever kind of the big picture categories are with specific projects and priorities that have been identified, whether that's through the master planning process or if there's subsequent additions or adjustments to that? What's a realistic time frame where we can expect to have something that we could see that level of detail provided?
Great question. I would say a realistic time frame is no sooner than 30 days. And as long as I can't put an end part on it, but I can definitely say no sooner than 30 days, because the first thing, before you see any flesh on that document, we are going to have our compliance firm in place so that when we are throwing out more detailed options, we are going to know that those options are in line with the federal regulations. So that's why I say no sooner than that. And honestly, how long it will be after that, I would be using a divining rod to give you an outside number.
Okay, so at least a month out. And then the other question I have is in that kind of document that I've seen circulated around town. I think there was a graphic in it that showed kind of it appeared to show like a breakdown of funding. I'm not sure that it was actually ARPA funding itself, but it, kind of focused on implementation, and there was a chunk for compliance, which I know you're referencing here too, and I think leverage or something like that. But it looked like it was roughly equal shares. I just wanted to double check. There's no intention that like a third of the funding would go for compliance. That was just.
That is a very well-intentioned question, and no, it is the infographic that you are talking about was just saying these are areas. It was not a proportional infographic.
Thank you.
Mr. Jewell?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, my comments I've been making over the past several meetings, and I'll direct my comments to you as the chair. Again, since May of this year, we've asked this question. I appreciate the effort of the staff. However, we seem to still get the generic endeavors. We're exploring, we're doing this, we're focusing on X, Y, and Z, and so forth. We were informed at our last month's meeting that in meeting with the chief financial officer, there was a sense of excitement of tying in the master plan and the capital improvement plan. And again, for our meeting this evening, at least for me, I'm not seeing any specifics. I'm not seeing any itemizations of anything. I keep hearing generic stuff. I am aware of the fact that across the country, across the state of Michigan and other cities, there are things that are right down to the specifics with allocations and so forth. And so, Mr. Chair, I have a real concern for us as the Planning Commission over a 5-month period that nobody has even presented to us on paper. This is what's being allocated. Here's some definitions of stuff and so forth. Here's some focus of where we're moving forward on. And here's our tie-in to the capital improvement plan and the master plan. I appreciate the verbal commentary. I appreciate the input and so forth. But if someone were to ask me, Rob, what's the specifics of what's going on? I don't have any reference points. So, Mr. Chair, again, that's my commentary.
Well, I think what Mr. Stevens said, until they get an accounting firm in place and those type of things, and to make sure they're in line with all the federal guidelines.
Mr. Chair, if they need the federal, if they need the federal guidelines already exist. American Rescue Plan has been out for a period of time. I'm not hearing any specifics. I'm just hearing generics. Being an organizational person, having worked with funding allocations and so forth, I just find myself at a loss. I need additional data specifics. So that's why my commentary is for us as the Planning Commission, and the staff is well aware of my inquiries and so forth.
Okay, very good. Anyone else? Might want to get in on this. Okay. To Mr. Stephen Calfani Stevens and to Suzanne, thank you very much. And we look forward to your next reporting time on this American Rescue Plan. Okay. Any new business?
This is Commissioner Ryan.
Commissioner Ryan?
I have a concern. Since 33% of the council will be replaced, is there a plan in place to bring them up to date so this whole process don't be delayed? or just what is going on? Because as you're aware, there's going to be three new council people.
Okay. Suzanne, you wanna address that?
Sure. This is Suzanne. As I said before, we're having discussions about the timing for introduction of the zoning code, and our goal was to have this presented before the council elections, due to some concerns and additional information that administration wanted to make sure was complete and accurate. That did not happen. So that's one of the reasons that we're proposing postponing this until after the council elections, and then the discussions that we have talked about with each council person will occur with the new council members, probably 2 on 2, and again in a special meeting with the city council. But our plan is to meet individually, or two, I say 2 on 2, but 2 council people at a time, to make sure that they understand what the zoning code is, what a master plan is, and then get into some of the nuances of the dilemma that we're encountering right now, and the plan to get the zoning code adopted so that we can have our new draft zoning code in place. So yes, Commissioner Ryan, we absolutely have intentions and plans to meet with all of the council, but especially the new council members who may not have an understanding of either the master plan or the zoning code. And the timeline that we propose to do that is the week after the election. So we will start setting up those meetings immediately.
Yes, thank you. I was concerned about the timeline because I know it takes time to bring people up to stuff, but I thought if we or planning had some information to give to them so that we don't be a delay, because I've been listening to all the council meetings and we're trying to put off everything to after the election.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We have the same concern for sure, and we recognize the timeline kind of deficiencies, and so it's our plan to express the critical urgency of this immediately as soon as council elections occur.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ryan, I must applaud. If you've been listening to those council meetings and you still got your head on your shoulders, I don't know how you do that, but
well, that's why I had to question.
You made hours, man. 7 hours, my head had been spinning. I couldn't stand it. Anyway, yeah. Any other new business? Any other new business? Hey, at that time, I know we need to go another at least 5 or 6 hours, but somebody said no, they objected to that. I didn't go another 5 or 6 hours. The chair will entertain a motion for
Commissioner Wesley, this is Commissioner Jewell. I mean, if you want, I could find some sort of commentary. We could take a look at how the hook is still available, or.
Well, Commissioner Jewell, I would take you up on that, but Commissioner Blauer got a plane she got to catch. I want her to go off being happy and all that good stuff. So let's not, for her sake, let's not go any further.
Okay, so agree. So do you want me to break into Hail to the Victors?
No. It would not make me happy either.
Just a little side planning commission humor here.
Yeah, we'll spare her of that. So there's nothing else for the good. The chair will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn meeting, Commissioner Ryan.
Commissioner Ryan made a motion of adjournment, and thanks everyone for being here, and be safe. If you can't be safe, root for Michigan. Hey.
You need a second. Commissioner, you need support for that motion there.
Oh, I need support. Well, we was getting to that, but I didn't want to give Commissioner Blauer an opportunity to get in here and upset my cart.
Well, I'll support if that will make you happy, Chairman Wesley.
Commissioner Blau, it's been moved and properly supported that the meeting be adjourned. All in favor, let's say, have a great week, folks, and take care.
Aye. Thank you.
All right,
Good night.
go green.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank
Go
you.
White.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.